After Talk Radio, you're in to all things music.
When I was at Berklee, I changed my last name because I kept getting strangers coming to my dorm wanting to, use me as a conduit to my dad. And I would have instructors at Berklee either be way too lenient with me or way too hard on me. And I remember I had one teacher and I wasn't doing well in the class. And he said, "Hey, don't worry about it, kid. I love your dad." And he passed me, and he should have failed me. And then I had another teacher who really just was so draconian with me because he said, "Hey, man, I love your dad. I'm not going to let you fail on his, on my watch." It's absolutely been that mixed bag.
Welcome to Jackie's Groove. Come journey with us through the rhythm of the music business with your host, Jackie Bertoni.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Jackie's Groove. It is Jackie Bertoni. It's October the 4th, and you're brought to you by Intertalk Radio Network. Guys, the old saying is the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Couldn't be more prolific in this situation because the gentleman I have on the show today, I'm a huge fan of his father's. Who isn't? The late, great Larry Coryell, gone way too soon. And so if I may, I'm going to dedicate this show in the name of Larry, and thanking him for the wisdom and his music and his overall vibe, and for also bringing this guest into my studio. So with that said, guys, I want everybody to welcome with open arms and open ears to Jackie's Groove, Larry's son, Julian Coryell. Julian, welcome to Jackie's Groove.
Thanks so much, Jackie. Great to be here.
Likewise, man. I wanted to start off by saying this whole thing that we're doing, I interviewed Virgil Donati last week, and then, of course, with Mitch Foreman on Friday. And this is a push. It's a push for a new thing that we've got coming up on October the 14th. It's a great consortium of music called Feast and Fusion, headed up by Bunny Burnell, one of the greatest bass players in the history of music itself. And people don't realize the fact that Bunny is a master chef. So October the 14th at the Back Bay Bistro in Newport Beach, Newport Dunes. You can reach them at newportdunes.com. We're going to sponsor this beautiful evening of Feast and Fusion. Again, too, with the group Cab, which is going to be with Kayleen Peoples, with Mitch Foreman, with Virgil Donati, with Bunny Burnell, and this gentleman by the name of Julian Coryell. So, Julian, with that said, we'll get more into the specifics on that as we go along, man. But welcome to the show, brother. I got to tell you, I can't tell you how many people that I've interviewed, my brothers and sisters that are Berklee alumni, if you will. How was that time, man? Was that a really good time of your life when you attended Berklee? Share with us.
Well, I was very young. I was 16 my freshman year.
Really?
I was very ambitious. Yeah. I left high school early, and I was very lucky to be able to enter at such a young age. Unfortunately, because of my youth, I was a little bit short-sighted, and I wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible. I did graduate, but
right.
I did an accelerated program there so I could graduate in 2 years instead of 4. So it was an amazing time, but I was so young that I really wasn't able to avail myself of all it had to offer. I wish I had stayed longer. I even wanted to quit halfway through, and my father, in his infinite wisdom, he said, "Listen, I don't want you to quit Berklee, and you're not going to listen to me, but maybe you'll listen to somebody else." So he said, "Just stay by your phone tonight." And I remember I was sitting in my room. The phone rang. I answered it. I said, well, this is Julian, who's this? And a voice on the other end said, well, this is Al Di Meola, and your father called me, and he told me you're thinking about quitting Berklee, and I just want you to know that I quit Berklee to go play with Return to Forever, and I really regret it. I wish I had stayed, and you need to stay in school, kid, like one of those things. And, it had an impact on me. So I stuck around. I graduated, and I have, partially Al to thank for that.
Well, and it's funny that you say that because unbeknownst to you, Al Di Meola is one of my personal friends. He's been a friend of mine a short time, and he and I have gone back years. And he's been on my show 3 times. In fact, we sponsored his last tour, the 40th anniversary of Elegant Gypsy. So whatever Mr. Di Meola says, you got to take, for instance, man, because he's gone through hell and back, obviously. We won't talk about that right now, but the situation with Chick and with Lenny and with Stanley, who was on my show also, too. So you're in great company, my friend. And the fact of the matter is, for those of you who don't know Al on a personal level, he is definitely a piece of work. And not to mention just a prolific guitar player himself. Hey, Julian, let me ask you this question, naive question, but a lot of listeners want to know, when you graduated, when you left Berklee, what did you take from there?
Well, I can tell you what I took at the time, and I can tell you what I took but didn't realize till many years later I had.
Okay. All right.
What I took at the time was a skill set that the curriculum provides, a skill set for musicians and specifically a skill set for guitar players.
Right.
And that's the nuts and bolts of what any good institution offers. And I'm extremely thankful for that. Books of knowledge that I'm still calling through 25, 30 years later. But what I also took that I did not realize was as critical, maybe even more so, was all the relationships that I created there. All the people that I met who later on in life turned out to be able to open a door for me in my career, throw a gig my way, want to collaborate. Basically, this is how we survive in this business. Your network is your net worth, as they say. So, the short game was the skill set, and the long game takeaway was the relationships.
Now, let's look back for a second. Can you remember off the top of your head who your any notable classmates that you shared the grounds with over there?
Oh yeah, Abel Boreal Jr. Was there with me, and a great pianist named Vernell Brown Jr. was there with me. Of course, those guys were classmates of mine in high school. We had a band together, but we all ended up going to Berklee at the same time as well.
That's very cool.
Layla Hathaway was there. Kurt Rosenwinkel was there. I interacted with him a little bit. We were both students taking guitar from the same teacher for a little while.
Let me ask this question going back to your father for a second. Okay, now that you graduated from Berklee, you tried to have an exodus from there, but between Al and between your father ganging up on you, before Daddy passed away, or even well before then, did Dad ever look into your eyes when the conversation of Berklee came up and education and the skill set and so on? Did Dad ever give you that look in his eyes, like "I told you so"?
He wasn't. Well, I'll tell you what he told me my whole life. What he told me my whole life
Please.
was, I can tell you what to do, but even if I did, you wouldn't do it anyways. So, that was
Fair
kind
enough.
of his. Yeah, that was sort of his paternal default, which was, I know you because I know myself, and if you're anything like me, and you must be like me somewhat because you're my son and you play guitar and we have a lot in common, you're probably not going to listen to somebody older telling you what to do. But take that with a grain of salt, because I had tremendous respect and admiration for my father. And to this day, I still hold him in the highest esteem. So I actually did take a lot of his advice. And I was a little different than most sons in that way. Though I was stubborn, I had enough good sense to know, like, hey, I want to do what this guy does. I should listen to him. And I always tried to listen to him. I'll put it that way.
You know, and I say this, Julian, because, you know, my mom, I lost my mom back in 92. My mom was my strength, my rock. She was my everything. To this day, she is. Before I go on stage live or in the studio, or even before I walk on into the studio on the air with Julian, I look up at the cross on my wall and I give it a sign of it and say, Mom, get me through this. Give me the strength, you know, not to screw up and so on and so forth. And so with that said, when I use her power, you know, what she's taught me, what she's instilled in me over the years, when you're up on stage and you're playing, let's step away from the studio. Let's get live on stage. When you're riffing, when you're comping, whatever you're doing out there and you're in the middle of a solo, do you ever, okay, stupid question, but when you're closing your eyes, are you playing dad's chops at all?
Well, it's a little bit different than that. I mean, when I play guitar, especially in a jazz setting, he's right there on my shoulder. I mean, he's right there on my shoulder. And after he passed, I did a series of concerts. I put together his old band, the 11th House. And I got Randy Brecker, and I got Jerry Brown, and I got John Lee. And, you know, we went on the road, and we played the songs for the fans. It was a way to celebrate my dad's legacy. Man. And whenever I play that music, especially, I mean, he's right there on my shoulder, man. I hear him in my left ear telling me, "Hey, don't play so much. You know, you're not comping good enough." You know, he's right there with me, man.
You know, and I asked this question because, you know, you growing up in the legacy of your father, you know, having that, you know, again with my friends Carney Wilson and Kathy Rich and so on, where, you know, the knock at the door and it'd be Frank Sinatra, knock at the door would be Elton John or Paul McCartney. So growing up, at what age did you realize the fact that Dad wasn't a 9-to-5 man? He wasn't getting up in the morning, going, having breakfast, and coming back with a newspaper and a pipe. When was it that you noticed, and when did you recognize the fact that Dad was the shit? That, you know, that all of a sudden the knocks on the doors and so on and so forth were the who's who, the yo-cats in the industry. With that said, who was the first person that was, quote-unquote, famous in the business that you met, and did you recognize who that person was?
Well, for me, it was sort of an inverse of what you described. Until I reached a certain age, I thought everybody was a musician. And until I reached a certain age, I thought every drummer played as good as Steve Gadd and Billy Cobham. And I thought that every bass player played as great as Bunny Burnell and Jaco Pastorius. And I thought that every guitar player played as great as my dad and John McLaughlin and Al Di Meola, because those were the people that were around when I was a kid. I would go out into the world later, and I discovered that it was the opposite of what I thought, that the world I came from was more rare and unusual, and the world that seemed exotic to me with clock punching and, you know, going to an office and all that, that was the norm. And I was extremely sad to discover that most drummers didn't play like Steve Gadd, and most bass players didn't play like Mingus. You know what I mean? And that was hard.
Of course. You know, and let me ask you this question. And as well deserved, you know, but, you know, being Julian Coryell, I'm going to use this scenario. I use this many, many times over many interviews. But the fact of being the good-looking girl in high school, no one ever wanted to ask her out because they assumed that she already had a date or was busy for the weekend. When you carry the name Coryell, is that a benefit, or is that a, oh shit, we can't afford him or he won't work with us? Have you faced that? And it's and no ego involved, but share with me what happens.
Oh yeah, it's a mixed blessing. I couldn't undo it. I mean, I don't have the power to,
of course,
you know, change my identity at this point in any way that would be significant. I mean, when I was at Berklee, for instance, I changed my last name because I kept getting strangers coming to my dorm, knocking on my dorm room door, wanting to, you know, use me as a conduit to my dad. And I would have instructors at Berklee either be way too lenient with me or way too hard on me. And I remember I had one teacher, and I wasn't doing well in the class, and he said, "Hey, don't worry about it, kid. I love your dad." And he passed me, you know, and he should have failed me. And then I had another teacher who really just was so draconian with me because he said, "Hey, man, I love your dad. I'm not going to let you fail on his, on my watch." Not, it was
right.
So, there were a lot of high highs, a lot of low lows, and then through the years, it's absolutely been that mixed bag where,
sure,
people. I would talk to people about a gig they were doing. And I would say, "Hey, man, why didn't you call me?" And they would say, "Well, I didn't know you'd want to do some silly gig at a bar in Manhattan Beach, And I have to tell them, like, "Hey, man, I'm happy to do a silly gig at a bar in Manhattan Beach as long as it feeds my kids, Dig it. And so, yes, absolutely, everything you can imagine. And
I only asked that question because coming out, and I was talking about young age. I worked with a small group, and I say that with tongue in cheek. When I was 19 years old, a group called Tower of Power, who are still my brothers, going on 50 years next year. And when you come out of the school of Tower of Power, and I'm sure you know a lot of the players there yourselves, and also coming off the school and the studio work with Brian Wilson, people get very, very, very standoffish. And I do the same thing too. Don't put me on a pedestal, man, because I do have a mortgage. Call me for a bar gig. If the music's right, I'm there. So don't think for me. Don't think that I'm above and beyond that situation. And I'm really curious, man, because I have a gentleman I've known for years. I'm working on getting him on the show right now. Doesn't like to do a lot of interviews, but is your former bandmate. Hopefully, it was your former bandmate when you were working with this girl by the name of Alanis Morissette. And the gentleman I'm talking about, another great drummer by the name of Taylor Hawkins. Were you working with Alanis when Taylor was working, or was that after?
No, Taylor left before I joined the band, and I saw him. I was on the road over the summer. I was playing guitar with Dee Schneider from Twisted Sister, and
wow.
Taylor has a cover band project, and he invited Dee to come up on stage. We were playing the same festival. I forgot where we were. Maybe somewhere in Europe. I can't remember. So we all, we did our set, and then we all went over to Taylor's stage, and Dee sang, maybe Smoke on the Water or something like that. It was very fun.
Dee still has his chops, doesn't he?
Dee still has, a throat of steel.
Okay, exactly.
We played to 100,000 people in France over the summer, and that guy, he is still singing as if it were 1985, man. You wouldn't know the difference. I tip my hat to him. He's a true professional. He's taken very good care of himself. But yeah, Taylor, I've only interacted with him in limited situations.
Perfect. And I'm going to interrupt you real quick because we're coming out of segment number 1. We're going to 2. You see how fast it goes by. But I do want to pick up your time with the little Miss Jagged Little Pill called Alanis Morissette. I want to know about how long you were with her and what it was like working with an iconic girl at the time, and she's still killing it. So with that said, you guys don't go anywhere. This is Jackie Bertoni, Jackie's Groove, brought to you by Talk Radio Network. You're into all things music. I'm proud and I'm privileged, man. I'm talking to this musical brother by the name of Julian Coryell. When we get back on this break, we're going to pick up some more things that is interesting me and hopefully interesting you also. So you guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay tuned.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
The Moyer Entertainment Group, in conjunction with the Dario, Radio Airplay, and Looploft, is keeping music in our local schools and presenting local talent to the world through the Temecula Valley Music Awards. Submissions for entry into the TVMA 2017 season are now open in all genres, including a youth category for artists under 18 for the October 7th Star-Studded Awards Show, where 100% of the proceeds go towards supporting local music education in the Temecula Valley. Details, tvmawards.org.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on EnterTalkRadio.com.
Todd Zuckerman from the rock band Styx, and you're listening to my pal Jackie Bertoni on Jackie's Groove. Groove on, motherfuckers.
Welcome to Jackie's Groove. Come journey with us through the rhythm of the music business with your host, Jackie Bertoni.
Everybody, welcome back to segment number 2 of Jackie's Groove. This is Jackie Bertoni, brought to you by Intertalk Radio Network. Hey, guys, we're here talking to my in-studio guest, Mr. Julian Coryell. And before we go any further, the whole thing that we're doing here in these last few interviews with the notables is for this great project coming up on October the 14th at the Back Bay Bistro in Newport Beach, Newport Dunes Resort. And that's on October the 14th. Doors open at 6 o'clock. Show starts at 7:30. And it's a thing called the Feast Infusion, brought to you in part by Jackie's Groove and in the Back Bay Bistro. It's going to be a great thing. People who don't know that Bunny Brunel is an amazing chef from France, as amazing as his bass playing is. He's got together some of the yo-cats in the industry, and those guys are, again, Virgil Donati, who I interviewed last week, also Mitch Foreman, who I did on Friday. And I've got Kayleen Peoples and Bunny Brunel coming on next week. But the person I'm talking to right now is Julian Coryell, the guitar player for this group called Cab. You guys do yourselves a favor. Go to newportbadoons.com. Go to ticketweb.com. Go to jackiesgroove.com or intertalkradio.com. And so you can get tickets to this, what I believe is going to definitely be a sellout, in the most beautiful setting in Newport Beach with some great music and some great food. What else can you ask for? More fun you're going to have with your clothes on. So with that said, getting back to Julian. Julian, welcome back, brother. Sorry I had to do business there. But let me just ask you a question. With growing up in the shoes of your father in the music and being considered the quintessential jazzer and so on, was jazz the only thing coming through the speakers of the Coryell household? What was the music coming through that you were either forced to listen to or you enjoyed? Share with the audience. Share with me.
Well, I mean, both my mother and father, were lovers of all music as long as it was good. The old Duke Ellington adage. 2 kinds of music, the good kind and the bad kind. Now, I've heard somebody do a little addendum to that, which is there actually is no good music and there is no bad music. There's only music you like and music you don't like, right? And I actually think that hits it even closer to the target of comprehension. But that being said, my folks always had high standards, and of course the obvious jazz canon was always being played around the house. All the greats, Monk, Mingus, Miles, Train,
right,
and everybody you can imagine. I mean, first of all, my dad played with Mingus. He toured with Monk he played with Miles. I mean, a lot of these legends were bosses of my father. So they were always being spun around the house. Of course, we played records back then, and a lot of classical music, and more, not so much classical era or romantic era. Although we did have our fair share of Bach and Beethoven and all that, but it would tend to be more the Impressionist, Debussy, Chopin, and then a lot of the modern stuff. Of course, it's not modern now, but it's categorized that way. Stravinsky, Schoenberg, and the like. Stockhausen, always listening to those composers as well. And then I was the one, being a small boy, I have an older brother who's also a tremendous guitar player and singer. His name is Larry Coryell, and he's known today as a blues and a soul singer and guitar player, but he actually had the greatest taste in music, and he was the one that was always turning me on to what was new and interesting at the time. Of course, it's now old, but that's where I kind of listened to the music of my generation, and that was just a real wide gamut. I mean, my brother was a big proponent of classic music. It's now classic today, but 60s and 70s, Creedence and Zeppelin and Yes, and then into the new wave, XTC and Elvis Costello and Blue Eyed Soul, Hall & Oates. I mean, just Genesis, like just a long list. As we were products of that time. That's what kids were listening to.
Of course.
And so we got it all growing up.
You mentioned Monk a little while ago. I don't know if you're familiar. You're probably going to look at me with forward boss saying, "How could you not be?" But I had a great interview with my buddy John Beasley and his amazing grouping of a thing called the Monkestra. Are you hip to that yet? Have you seen that show yet?
I haven't seen it. I'm aware of it, and I think it's great what he's doing.
You got to do yourself a favor, man. And if you don't know, let me be the one to introduce you. He's just a great guy. He's a great melding of 15 of the Yo-Cats up on stage, playing tribute to Thelonious Monk. So, going back in there. But let's step out of the snooty jazz hour right now. Let's go back to what we were talking about in the Blue Eyed Soul and so on and so forth that we were involved in. With that, I'm hearing music in the background, guys. Are we firing off the computer? Oh, that's me. I'm sorry. My bad. My computer just blew up on me.
You gave me a heart attack, Jackie. I'm like trying to...
You gave me a heart attack also. Sorry about that. So back to, oh my God, live radio. Hey, so Julian, let me ask you this question. We've all, again, I want to say one of your biggest things that you're doing or have done is with Alanis Morissette. How did you get that call? How did that gig come to you? Was it by happenstance or was it something you pursued?
I'll tell you, I remember one of my heroes, Hiram Bullock, when somebody asked him if he had ever auditioned for a gig. He said, never auditioned for a gig in my life.
Right.
I tend to find for many of us, like I kind of going back to that Berklee history, your network is your net worth, right? So I've got some dear friends who are also peers in this industry, and one of those gentlemen was playing in her band, and he was a very lucky man. He had another great gig come his way. He had been in her band for many years and very happy doing that because she's a great boss. She's great to work for. But she was winding down. She was getting ready to be a mom, have her first child, and this other artist was getting ready to wind up. And for better or worse, if you are a working musician, you don't oftentimes have the luxury of cherry picking the jobs you want. You have to go after the job that is going to feed your family. So he got put in this position where he had to choose between playing with Alanis or playing with another artist. And because Alanis was taking so much time off, he knew he had to choose the other artist. And so he reached out to me and he said, "Look, I've got some conflicts here. Can you sub for me on this gig?" And I said, "I'd be happy to." And that's how it started. And then, of course, as fate would have it, Alanis decided she wanted to ramp things up after her baby was a little bit older. and my friend had already committed to this other artist, and I had already done the gig as a sub. So it was a pretty organic transition to taking his place.
Let me ask you this question, my friend. So what was the time difference between the time you joined the band and the release of her iconic album, Jagged Little Pill? And first, to answer the question, if you can tell me what the difference was from that time, was it 5 years, 10 years, and so on? And when you were doing that, how big of venues were you playing with Alanis at that time?
Well, Jagged was, I think, 1995 or 1996. This is 2017. Yeah, I think it was 1996. So I didn't join the band until way, way later than that. Maybe 13, 14 years later. Let me see, 2006. Yeah, maybe about 14 or 15 years after that.
Okay.
And so it's like, I remember I knew guys who played with Carole King for years, and I actually played with Carole King a little bit as well. And,
so cool.
Tapestry, I think Tapestry came out in 1973 or something like that. And it's like Carole, of course, has done so much since then. And Alanis has done so much since then. But, the public tends to remember, really, it has a small and short space when it assigns, information to an artist in popular culture. So people, they do tend to go back to that record, and as they well should. It was an iconic record, and it changed, the landscape of the singer-songwriter genre, especially for women.
Absolutely.
And, with Alanis, she has an enviable career, in my opinion, because she's still very beloved all over the world. And we can. We played the Kabu Festival 2 weeks ago for 50,000 people, and Tom Petty played after us. It was one of the last shows he did, actually. Bless him. What a gift! What a giver! And on her own, when we hit the road, she still plays for several thousand people. In the States, and then in Europe and South America, it's much larger. It's 10,000 people and up sometimes. So she still does very well, and I'm very proud to support her musically, because it's a very it's a privileged situation for me.
Julian, we said on the break, we kind of said it tongue in cheek. I said, the fact that everybody we lost your father on the 19th of February. We lost my friend, Mr. Al Jarreau, on the 12th. And that's why I remember it being so close of losing two iconic musicians in the industry at the same time that I said on the break to you. And I said, we're losing brothers and sisters left and right, especially with the fact of Mr. Petty yesterday. And I said to you, jokingly, but at the same time, too, cautiously, that the band in heaven must be a motherfucker, and we laughed. And I said to you, and I'll say to the audience, I hope they're not looking for a 57-year-old percussionist or a 44-year-old guitarist anytime soon. We've got too much shit to do here on earth. And just be thankful every day that we've got this, And what I'm thankful for, my friend, is, learning more about you. And what I want to share with you, or ask you to share with the listeners itself, you being a product of still back then in a recording studio with an SSL Neve board and so on, and, the big Ampeg 2-inch reel and so on. Is Julian a slave to digital, Pro Tools, and the like, or do you still find yourself more at home in front of a huge board doing things analog?
Well, I'm not going to even pretend to lie. I miss the old days. Straight up. I miss the old days.
I agree.
The technology is more pleasing to my ear. Tape is always going to sound better in my ear. Digital sounds awful in my ear. It just does. That being said, anyone who was born after that era, I wouldn't expect them for a minute to really understand why it's more pleasing to me. Any more than I should understand why somebody wants to listen to shellacks of, Chimes Blues by King Oliver and Satchmo. We're all slaves to the era that we were,
of course,
most impressionable through. I'm not very impressionable anymore. I don't, wake up in the morning and run to the computer and want to find out about the latest A to D converters. But when I was a younger man, I would wake up in the morning and I'd go get a magazine on audio gear, and I was salivating over, the latest microphones and whatnot. So absolutely, for me, old school all the way.
Well, and let me ask you this question, going through that, and with that itself, let's go back to stage for a second. Since you are, a young man, an older man, and in between and so on, when you're on stage, depending on the venue size and so on, I can tell you personally, I don't like in-ear monitors. I just don't like the way it sounds. It doesn't sound ambient enough to me. I am a slave to the wedge. Do you have a preference? Is there a writer on your gig that you must have a wedge or you must have in-ears, or is it your choice?
Well, I'll put it to you this way. When I'm in a supportive role, like playing with Alanis, I'm going to do whatever makes her happy. That's really the job of the sideman, to take care of the artist. That being said, if it's a drag, then, if it ain't right, you got to make it right. I personally abhor in-ear monitors, but I wear them most of the pop. Yeah, I mean, there's, who wants to have sex with a condom? I mean, come on. But,
all right. You said it. I didn't.
What I mean?
Okay, great.
I mean, and I don't say that to be flip. I mean, what I mean by that is, humans are, we're sensual creatures, and we're very drawn to the sensual experience. And the sensual experience is not just a sensual romantic experience. It's everything. It's the taste of a delicious meal. It's the sound. I mean, come on. But, for me, the sound of a beautiful old Gibson through a vintage Fender or Marshall amp, 3 feet behind me and then the wedge in front of me, and I'm getting kick and snare, and I'm getting everything I need, and it's moving through the air. That's a sensual experience. In-ear monitors deprive me of that experience. They in the same way that, I encourage all people to, protect yourselves when you're being romantic, but it doesn't feel the same, as when you're with somebody you love and you don't have to do that. And so for me, I'll do what I have to do, but if I have my druthers, of course I want a wedge, and I want it nice. Yeah. I won't say nice and loud, because that's a little bit risky, but I want to feel it.
Yeah, and it's like someone had asked me not too long ago, and I asked this question also too. When you're on stage, what don't you want to hear in your ears? And everybody's responded, and the first thing that came out of Mitch Foreman's mouth was wrong notes, and I thought that was hysterical, and it is true, man. Depending on what your mix is, what you like as a supporting actor or as a person who's a front man. But when we get into that, I want to talk more to you about your process in the studio, and we're going to do it on the next segment itself as we're coming out of segment number 2. You see how fast that goes. And again, too, my brother, we'd like to welcome you back with open arms so we can actually sit down with an elongated interview, because, 1 hour is not enough, especially when you're talking about a career as colored as yours and as storied as yours. So with that said, when we come back on segment number 3, we're going to talk everything about Julian, how to stock Julian on a professional level, where to purchase his music, wherever music is sold, and so on, and where he's going to be playing around town, and his new upcoming projects that he'll share with us ahead of time. So with that said, guys, this is Jackie Bertoni. This is Jackie's Groove. It's brought to you by Talk Radio Network. You're into all things music. I'm proud and privileged to be talking to this gentleman by the name of Mr. Julian Coryell. Guys, don't go anywhere. Segment number 3, final hour, is right around the corner. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element. Affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on EnterTalkRadio.com.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, this is Michael McDonald, and you're listening to my good buddy Jackie Bertoni on Jackie's Groove.
Welcome to Jackie's Groove. Come journey with us through the rhythm of the music business with your host, Jackie Bertoni.
Folks, that's called Jazz Fusion 101, and this is called Jackie's Groove. I'm called Jackie Bertoni. The network is called Intertalk Radio Network. You're into all things music. Guys, we're on the final hour with Julian Coryell. Julian, you know, your friend, my friend, Al DiMiola, quoted probably when we, middle of last year when we promoted his last tour, and he said to me, and I quote, "I'm a little bit concerned because fusion's in a state of confusion." You know, and it's, you know, if you want to call it smooth jazz with an edge and so on, you know, I hope that everything comes back. I hope we can get back into the business of yesterday, you know, of meaning record stores, record sales, and so on, you know, and we have to be thankful for everybody out there that puts the best foot forward. And first and foremost, our sponsors, Pitbull Audio, SIR, Studio Instrument Rentals, DW Drums, Vader Percussion, Sabian Cymbals, and Mike and Company, LP Music Group for 28 years. Guys, thank you very much for keeping these crazy lights on. You know, Julian, I'm very thankful, and the reason why I'm thankful is, you know, meeting artists like yourself through Kayleen and through Bunny and such, and this great show we have coming up called the Back or Jazz Feast and Fusion at Back Bay Bistro through Newport Dunes. So with that said, I want you to say hi to the CEO of our crazy network. His name is Florentino Buenaventura. Florentino, please say hi to Julian, and then do some business so I can stretch my legs here for a second.
Hey, what's up, Julian? How you doing, man?
Good. How you doing?
Oh, brother, just enjoying this interview. You guys are, you know, I love hearing you guys chop it up. It's just too cool, and you guys sound like you've known each other for years, but it's your first meeting, so it's a really good one, man. So I appreciate you coming on the network and sharing your history, although, like Jackie said, it's too short. Your history is just far too impactful and vast to cover it in an hour. But these people get a little sense of what and who you are. So that's pretty cool, man. So thanks.
Well, you're most welcome. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Oh, yes. And I think everyone's enjoying this. And in fact, I started busting up on the content condom comment. That was pretty. Fortunately, we're on the internet. We don't have to worry about this stuff. Even though I don't think that would probably have been anything. It was
exactly.
It wouldn't have been nothing but a chicken wing. So, with that said, man, with the condom off, give us the full details of how people can find out more about you and websites, social media. Can they reach you by smoke signal? How can people find out more about you?
So, kind of all the obvious outlets. You can find me at Julian Coryell www precedes that. Spelled as I spell my name, JulianCoryell.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Julian Coryell Music, spelled like it sounds. I occasionally tweet. I occasionally gram instantly. And so that's the cyber info. And for anyone who's in the Santa Monica area, I try as best I can to play a little dive bar on Lincoln Boulevard, just south of Pico, called Trip, every Tuesday night from about 9 to midnight. I try to
very cool.
Try to do that whenever I'm in town, and that's some sort of trio. Sometimes it's a little larger, but usually it's a trio. Sometimes it's an organ trio. Sometimes it's a power trio. We played last night, for example, and we took a bunch of Tom Petty tunes and we turned them into fusion songs.
Wow, that's cool
it's
tribute,
basically,
man.
Yeah, my dad, whenever he was in town, sitting with me at that gig, and I've had some of the greatest musicians on the planet doing that gig. It's just kind of a well-kept secret, but I do like to promote it a little bit more now because it's important to keep live music happening, especially in that part of town.
Absolutely.
Which got to represent.
Well, that's
be there most Tuesdays.
Yeah, that's the reason why we are doing these events over at the Newport Dunes. It's been there for a while. It's the Back Bay Bistro, and the good friend who's running the entertainment and food and beverage, stuff over there. He basically said, "Hey, I want to start doing some events here." He's a big jazz fan, and they've got space for anywhere from a couple hundred people on up to 5,000 because it's a huge resort. And for us, we really wanted to provide a venue that would give quality music, and not be afraid to support the music and treat the musicians with the dignity and the respect that they deserve. Unfortunately, a lot of clubs have kind of fallen away from that, and it's always about the money. And everyone needs to make a dollar, but we want to make sure that the music stays alive, and that's why with this Bunny event, it's kind of a big thing for us. We're really adding that extra dimension with Bunny's cooking and having just the best players, man. And I'm not just saying that because you're on on air with us, but Bunny, when he went out, he's for the music that he does and what he loves, he sought to have the creme de la creme of the players, and you were chosen. Virgil, Mitch, Kayleen on flute and vocals. So we're really blessed to have you guys come out there with us and make this event just that much more special. And I think this is going to be the next happening spot. And it's, you can call this a home. I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of Brian, but I think he would say the same thing, that you can call this a home for projects or anything that you want to do. And kind of like that little bar that you said that you go every Tuesday night when you're in town. Consider that the Back Bay Bistro there, your joint as well.
Oh, that's fantastic! I can't wait to play there. Can't wait to check it out. We're really, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So everyone's going to get Bunny cuisine, except for who was it? Was it Mitch or was it Virgil that said that they expected hot dogs because that's what they usually get from the clubs?
No, that was Virgil. Virgil says we're going to have the quintessential hot dogs and what was it? Macaroni and cheese or whatever it was. It was hysterical. I said, no, we'll guarantee you'll give you at least one.
So that's what Virgil's getting. The rest of y'all are getting, some just exquisite south of France cuisine, but Virgil's getting his hot dogs.
There you go.
Virgil really loves hot dogs. What can I tell you?
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm really looking forward to this event, and we like to fondly say that once you've been jumped in by an interview with Jackie on Jackie's Groove, you cannot be jumped out. So we're here to support you any way we can, like we did with Al and everybody else. Yeah. You just let us know what we can do to help promote you, and we'll get that going.
And Tino, and the truth be told, I was just texting Al a little while. I wanted Al to call in and scare the shit out of Julian, but he's not answering right now. So that's sorry about that, brother. I wanted to shake you up there a little bit, because Al, let me tell you, Al loves to stir shit, man. Let me tell you, and we say that with all love in our heart. So But with that said, okay. So again, just while you're on the line again, it is Feast and Fusion, brought to you by Jackie's Groove, NewportDunes.com, and you can get your tickets at ticketweb.com or go on to NewportDunes.com and search out Feast and Fusion. You guys don't want to miss it. October 14th, doors open at 6, show starts at 7:30, and heartburn hopefully won't come up after that itself because the food is going to be off the chart. So with that said, Florentino, you are my boss, but do me a favor, get the fuck off my station so I can get back with this gentleman.
Your station or your show?
About it.
You're on the station now, right?
My show. There you go. All right, brother. I'll talk to you offline itself. Thank you, brother. Julian, let me ask you a question because I had this question from a listener. Does Julian Coryell have a bucket list? And if so, who could you snap your finger and who would you be on stage with or in the studio? Share with us. Enlighten us.
Well, I'm not a very unique individual. I mean, my bucket list is kind of similar to many, I suppose. I would still love to play in Steely Dan because, I'm pretty much created to be the perfect guitar player in that band, whether I like it or not. But I know all the guys in that band, and they're not going to give up that gig, and I wouldn't expect them to. They deserve their spots. They're masters. But that's definitely something I've always wanted to do. I've played for Paul McCartney. I've had him come to one of my gigs and be very complimentary, but I've never played with him, and that would be nice. But again, I know all the guys in that band, and they have earned their spots, and they're all geniuses. So yeah, Dave and Brian and Rusty, all those guys, Wick, I've known them for years. But sure, I'd love to play with Paul. Love to play with Joni. I don't really see that happening any time, probably ever anymore, but she has always been somebody I would have loved to have played with, and I hope that she sticks around for a long time. But she's not a big fan of playing live anymore, as far as I know. Yeah. And then, my bucket list is more, Stevie Wonder. Sure, I'd love to play with Stevie, always, every day. any day and every day. But then, my bucket list is more about who I would have liked to have seen rather than played with, because I'm as much a fan as I am a professional. Sure. I'm very sad I never got to see Grant Green or Wes Montgomery or John Coltrane play, and I would have loved to have seen Bach, play organ, one Sunday service because he was a church guy. That's how he made his living most of his life. So I have those kind of bucket list fantasies more as a fan than a player. The one thing I would like to do, and I hope I have the courage to do it sooner than later, because time is of the essence. I would love to get the peers of my father together to do a concert. John McLaughlin, Al, of course, Chick, Billy Cobham, Bunny. I have to some degree done that with the 11th House reuniting, getting Randy Brecker and John Lee and Jerry Brown. And that's been amazing. But there's this other side of his legacy that I feel needs a little bit of revisiting before too long. And so that's something I would like to make happen, but, no buts. That's something I would like to make happen.
And I want to say one thing. I try never to be redundant on my questions, although I'm my own enemy. But I'm going to ask this question. I ask to everybody because I can't wait to hear the response. And the question is, oddly enough, brought up by my wife. If Julian Coryell was not playing music, if Julian wasn't invested in music, if Julian had the word music no longer in his vocabulary, what would Julian be doing today?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. It's a question I ask myself. Whatever it is, Jackie, it would be something that is helping people. The world is very broken, and the world needs a lot of love.
You think?
And you think.
Yeah.
And, I'd be a therapist, I'd be a lawyer. I am a college professor as well already, and I feel that when I teach my students, I teach music, but I also teach humanities. I actually feel I'm making an impact. in a way that I don't when I play music, to be honest. Music is very healing, very needed in a particular way.
Understatement.
But, understatement, of course. But when if I teach a group of 18, 19, 20-year-olds, about racism, xenophobia, misogyny, if I teach them about those concepts and show them how throughout history they've always existed and how we just keep making the same mistakes over and over, my hope is I can empower them to go out in the world. They're the ones who are going to change the world, more so than you or I at this point in many ways. They're the ones who can shape tomorrow more so than you or I can in many ways. So if I wasn't doing music, I'd probably be teaching, and I would be teaching arts, but I would also be, empowering people, because I know
and it's a great answer,
man.
Yeah, and I want to throw it out there too, Julian. I want to just tell her right now, not running on the coattails of what happened, this massacre 2 days ago in Las Vegas, but I'm telling the listeners out there worldwide, do not let this deter you, man. A festival of music is brothers and sisters of like-minded joy of music has to continue. The psychological warfare that's being brought onto to the world has got to stop. And we got to empower each other with music. We got to empower with each other of not having fear. I mean, be cautious, yes, but don't let what happened in Vegas deter you from your love of music, your love of freedom. This is why we live in America, And I'll get off the soapbox, but I just want to say, because I have a lot of friends in Las Vegas. Thankfully, they made it through. Some friends did not make it through. It's a horrible situation, but we have to go on. God bless those that were affected by the situation. We were all affected by the situation. So we have to, my moniker has always been, Julian, it's my trademark. It's called Peace Through Music. It's easier said than done, I'm sure. But if you don't have music in your life, man, you're really missing a whole bunch of stuff. That's like telling somebody what steak tastes like if you've been eating peanut butter all your life. You've got to experience it. And, and through our network, through Jackie's Groove, we want to bring this and we want to enlighten the public out there from the young to the old. Because I've always say, Julian, to know where you're going in music, you have to know where it all started. And there's old and all the new, and there's some new and all the old. If you look about it one way or the other, don't try to break it down. But it's time to move forward, man. Enough fucking around. Enough of breaking up this world. Enough of being divided. Music should bring everybody together as a whole, regardless of what type of music it is. And so with that said, brother, there's a violin player in the background. I mean, I get real emotional when it comes to shit like this itself. And I'm very, very thankful to have people like Julian Coryell. I want to thank your father above for bestowing his knowledge, his music, and his ability to bring a kid by the name of Julian into this world along with Mama. And so, Julian, do me a favor, man. Hold your arms open, man, and give me a big hug on the 14th. And I want to just, like Florentino said, you've been jumped in, so there's not no way to get out of this. And if you know any of other notables out there that you feel that can benefit from our network, my show, please, my friend, extend that olive branch, and we'll definitely bring it in and do the best that we can. And so, with that said, guys, I want everybody worldwide to thank Mr. Julian Coryell for gracing the stage October 14th, Back Bay Bistro, Newport Dunes. A feast and fusion evening of great music, including Bunny Burnell, Virgil Donati, Kayleen Peoples, Mitch Foreman, and the gentleman I have on the line right now, Mr. Julian Coryell. Julian, I love you, brother. Thank you so much for being part of this great thing called Jackie's Groove. You guys don't go anywhere. My next big thing will come up with me, Kayleen Peoples, and Mr. Bunny Burnell. We'll talk more about it. So thank you so much. Go back about your day, my friend. Julian, thank you so much, and thank you for being part of this great thing called Jackie's Groove. Have a blessed day, brother. We'll talk real soon.
You too. Thanks, Jackie. Bye-bye.
Peace. This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com.
Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.